Yes, won't somebody think of the children? From the Daily Telegraph. Preschooler begins transition aged 4. Children as young as 3 claiming gender dysphoria. Now, the last part of that title is particularly interesting. Children as young as 3 claiming gender dysphoria. Do you really think a 3-year-old rocked up to the local hospital and announced after thumbing through the DSM-5 that they have gender dysphoria and think it's time to start transitioning? I don't think so. I would hazard a guess that this is coming from concerned parents. But let's read on. A 4-year-old preschooler in New South Wales has begun transitioning their gender before attending their first day of kindergarten amid a wave of young children across Australia who are seeking to change sex. The Baird government has revealed a number of students are transitioning their gender in primary schools. The revelation comes as referrals to the Children's Hospital at Westmead for gender services have tripled, with one doctor saying they had escalated rapidly across every state. In another major children's hospital, 250 children, some as young as 3, are being assisted by the Gender Dysphoria Unit. So the question is, why the rapidly escalating numbers? Well, perhaps there's somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy here at work. The fact that gender identity has been shoved into the spotlight, been given particular airplay in Australia due to the controversial Safe Schools program, means that parents are hypersensitive to the issue and thus on the lookout for certain types of behaviour exhibited by their children. So when their 3-year-old son runs into Toys R Us and starts pushing the pram down the pink aisle, the parents are more aware of what this type of behaviour could mean and rush off to their local paediatrician to seek advice. And this is understandable from the point of view of parents. We all know the statistics about increased likelihood of suicide and other mental problems associated with gender dysphoria. Not that 3-year-olds are committing suicide, but that the risk increases later in life if the condition persists. And that's a big if we'll return to later. But again, this article raises more questions than it answers. What does transitioning mean for a 3 or 4-year-old? Here's what it doesn't mean. No child under the age of 18 in Australia can have sex reassignment surgery. But adolescents can, with the relevant permissions from medical professionals, have hormone replacement therapies administered. So I think we all need to calm down, take a deep breath, and understand that we are not talking about hacking off body parts of small children. From what I can find about transition for small children, it involves counselling. And if all that means is making sure that the child is not suffering and can get the support if and when they need it, then I don't have a big problem with it. But again, we need to know more about what transitioning involves for young children and who is doing the counselling. But this article doesn't touch on any of those issues and is therefore not particularly helpful. Now, the aforementioned DSM-5 lays out for clinicians the criteria under which a child may be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. From page 452, quote, "A marked incongruence between one's experienced expressed gender and assigned gender of at least 6 months duration, as manifested by at least 6 of the following, one of which must be criterion A1. And criterion A1 is a strong desire to be of the other gender or an insistence that one is the other gender." So just because your child played dress-ups once and enjoyed dressing up as the opposite sex doesn't mean your child is suffering from gender dysphoria, and there's no need to panic. But this is one of the problems. How many kids, for example, have been incorrectly diagnosed with ADHD? Some parents are naturally going to overreact, and hopefully in such cases their paediatricians or GP can set them straight that there's nothing to worry about. But another bigger issue, in my opinion, is that according to the DSM-5, that for the majority of children that experience gender dysphoria, that experience does not persist into adolescence or adulthood. Quote, "Rates of persistence of gender dysphoria from childhood into adolescence or adulthood vary. In natal males, persistence has ranged from 2% to 30%. In natal females, persistence has ranged from 12 to 50%. Furthermore, It is unclear if particular therapeutic approaches to gender dysphoria in children are related to rates of long-term persistence. Extant follow-up samples consisted of children receiving no formal therapeutic intervention or receiving therapeutic interventions of various types, ranging from active efforts to reduce gender dysphoria to a more neutral, watchful, waiting approach. It is unclear if children encouraged or supported to live socially in the desired gender will show higher rates of persistence, since such children have not yet been followed longitudinally in a systematic manner. So again, the genuine concern of a lot of people is that encouraging children to identify as their desired gender when most grow out of it could do more long-term harm than good. Providing support for distressed children is one thing, but encouraging them to adopt an identity that there is a high likelihood they'll grow out of seems at best a little reckless. In addition, other than preventing bullying, schools should have no role in this process. It should be left to medical professionals, not untrained teachers. Now, the rest of the article goes on to quote various psychologists who are either for or against transitioning young children. But without an understanding of or an attempt to define what transitioning means and how it's currently being carried out at various hospitals, it's a kind of pointless discussion, and this article serves no useful purpose except to create drama.
Think of the children. Won't somebody please think of the children?